As soon as we are finished with our leak testing and our brazing, we know that we've got a good sealed system. The next thing we want to do is immediately start pulling a vacuum. And so that is accomplished through our vacuum pump. So I want to talk about the pump, what it does, how it functions, what its purpose is, and how to care and maintain your vacuum pump for optimum operation. Up to this point, we have been brazing on our lines, so they have at some point been open to the atmosphere. And so that means that we have air, oxygen in our lines. We've been running nitrogen through, so we've got nitrogen in our lines. Once we finish with the system, we want nothing but pure refrigerant flowing through our line sets. No moisture, no nitrogen, no oxygen, so we need to get everything out of there before we add refrigerant to the line set. So the vacuum pump is what's going to do that for us. So it's going to, obviously the first thing that it's going to do is suck the air out of, and if there's nitrogen in there, it's going to suck the air and nitrogen out of our line set. But the other thing that it will do is that it will remove moisture if we get down to a deep enough vacuum. Moisture can't exist below a certain level of vacuum. If you've ever seen in science class where you can take a jar of water and put a vacuum pump on the top of it, it will start boiling the water. As that pressure drops in that container, the water will actually start boiling off, and if you left it on there long enough, it would disappear and it would completely dry up. And so that's what we're trying to do with the vacuum pump, not just running enough to get the air and nitrogen out of it, but if there's any moisture that has gotten into that line, that could be something from where we accidentally got some moisture into it, or just the humidity in the air from where we've been working on the system and had the line set open. So if there's any moisture, we want to get rid of that. And the vacuum pump, if we're able to pull down to a deep enough vacuum, it's going to eliminate both the oxygen and nitrogen and any moisture. So this vacuum pump is a Yellow Jacket model 93600. It's a 7 CFM 2-stage vacuum pump, a very good vacuum pump, so it's going to be able to pull a good deep vacuum fairly quickly. But we're going to look at a couple of things. The first is the oil level. And so I'm going to turn that around here where you can see that a little bit better. So on the front, the oil is the most important part other than the motor and the pump itself. But if you do not have oil in here, it's not going to be able to pull a vacuum. If you have dirty oil, it's not going to be able to pull as good of a vacuum. And so the oil is extremely important. So you can see the minimum oil level here in the middle. And as we turn that, you can see that we have probably an excess of oil up here. You can see the line up on the top. So we've got more than enough. That's not going to hurt us too bad. But we don't want to drop down below that line here where it says oil and has the two lines on it. Some people recommend that you change the oil after every use. We think that's a little bit excessive, but you should probably change it at least once a week if you're using your vacuum pump very much, and you should. On every line set install that you do, you should always pull a vacuum before we add refrigerant. So you're going to be using it quite a bit. Some ways to keep your oil clean. We've got caps right now on each of our valves. You should keep those caps on when you're not using it. We'll see a lot of people that leave the caps off, and that's just a way for moisture to get into that oil, and that will contaminate your oil and shorten the life of it. So once you're done with it, you should always cap everything up good and store it to where it is sitting straight up and down. If you sit it somewhere and it turns over, this oil is going to spill out, and you'll have oil all over your van or whatever wherever you're keeping it, and you're going to lose the oil that's in the system. So I have an older vacuum pump that I'm going to go ahead and change the oil in. This is just a nice oil change station, a little tank here that allows you to set your pump in it, and as it drains out, it'll store the oil in this tank. And so I'll go ahead and do a demonstration of that. There's just a plug here that we want to take out. Set that to the side. Then I'm going to take my pump set it in here. Do that, I'll show you that there is a plug down here at the bottom underneath our oil sight glass. And so once we take that out, that oil is going to immediately start running out. And so once we set that in the container, I'm going to take this plug out, and we should start draining our old oil, if you can see that coming out. Now that all of our oil has drained out of this pump, I'm going to spin it around here where you can see it a little bit better. But I'm going to reinsert my plug, and the oil goes in this top fill valve here. So we're going to open that up. And I have some new black gold vacuum pump oil. We want to add that until, I'm going to try to do it without a funnel here, try not to make a mess. We want to add that until we see that come up to our oil level. And we will reinstall our cap.